I feel like I have to say thank you to PTA. I see these gifts up here, so I want to thank you for your recognition and for your support. Thank you very much.
And did the PTA want to just come up and say a few words? Thank you to the Board of Education for your leadership and commitment to our students, staff, and community. We appreciate your efforts in leading us into the future. Thank you for all your dedication, hard work for our school district.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And the Teachers Union, we thank you as well. We lift our most high. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did you want to come up and say a few words?
In honor of School Board Recognition Week, we'd like to say thank you to the past and present Long Beach School Board of Education members, the countless hours you have volunteered to help formulate the goals consistent with the needs for our children. Please accept this small token of our appreciation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just wanted to make a remark about homecoming and thank anybody and everybody who had anything to do with homecoming. It was certainly a nice celebration out in the middle school field under the tents, the football game and the bands and the subsequent Wall of Fame ceremony following Saturday. It's always one of the nicest celebrations in the district to recognize people who have contributed in some small way to Long Beach life and Long Beach culture. We recognized 5 people or 6 people and first responders. It was a wonderful Saturday morning. And, it was just a good time was had by all. So at this time, I turn the meeting over to the superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. And tonight was originally supposed to be a work session. We did convert it to a business meeting with some, a small number of personnel items. And tonight we are going to hear from our Director of English and Literacy, Dr. Adis, about our literacy program. It's also our student showcase on student writing, and Dr. Adis will actually end with that. So you'll hear the words of our students on their writing to kind of bring to life what she's done in her presentation. So Dr. Adis.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to share with you the work that we've been doing in the area of writing over the past year, and I'll start with the elementary grades. So last year was our first year with the Teachers College Writing Units of Study implementation, and our initial goals focused primarily on process, writing volume, and of course supporting our teachers with the implementation. So this year, in year 2, we are continuing to work toward those year 1 goals, especially with the transition year, and then have done some strategic planning to emphasize the importance of conferring and small group work during Writers' Workshop. So I'm going to share with you some of the nuances and the highlights of what it's like to be a writer at each grade level, and I'll start with K-2. So writers, when they start their journey in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, they're going through the writing process very quickly and very often, and they're writing in booklets that are kept in a writing folder throughout the week. And in kindergarten, many writers enter the writing process through composing with pictures and then labeling pictures with initial sounds. Students learn many strategies for planning and oral rehearsal, like touching and telling across pages and using sketching as a plan for writing. At every grade level, there's an emphasis on partnerships. Partners are really important in writing workshops, so students are sharing their work with peers daily. Besides partnerships with peers, writers also form partnerships with published authors through the use of mentor texts. So writers from the very beginning are studying the craft moves and the technique from published authors with hopes that they emulate those craft moves and techniques in their own writing. You can see some examples there. We also are placing an emphasis on the importance of conferring between teachers and students one-on-one so that writers are working on individual writing goals, and then also small group instruction during writing workshops so that sometimes writers are grouped together by similar need and teachers are supporting them in their individual process. Moving on to grades 3 to 5, there are some differences at these grade levels. So for example, students are moving from writing in multiple booklets a week into a writing notebook. They have opportunities to compose in both print and digital spaces, and they're not going through the writing process as quickly. They actually slow down and they spend more time in each stage of the process, learning certain strategies for those stages of the writing process. So for example, here you see writers practicing multiple strategies for the early stages of the writing process, like generating ideas and planning. Students compose in both print and digital spaces. Many of our units of study give students opportunities to collaborate and write together. Students practice multiple strategies for revisions, and we introduce peer feedback as a formal form of giving suggestions for revision throughout the writing process. So students read each other's work. They give targeted feedback based on what they've learned during instruction, and then they use that feedback during the revision stages of writing. So usually they're very happy to share with their peers. And at the end of every unit of study at all grade levels, there is a celebration. And teachers and writers have been working really hard to come up with creative ways to celebrate at the end of each unit. So they have themed publishing parties, they share their work with family members, school community members, town community members. Writers from the class put their own books into classroom libraries, and students really see the value of writing for a specific audience during this time. So here's an example of a second grade class last year. You know, we couldn't really have a lot of visitors in the building, so the class made an invitation on the right. They sent a Zoom invitation to family members, and they were able to have a publishing party and share their work. One third grade class, at the end of their opinion writing unit, invited Todd Kaminsky in to hear their ideas. Writers are putting their own books into classroom libraries. Writers are sharing their writing with their peers, almost like a book talk at Barnes & Noble to really celebrate authorship. And our schools have become celebratory spaces of writing. So if you walk in our classrooms and our hallways, you're going to see student work that reflects the work they're doing in writing workshops. In a first grade reviews unit, students wrote reviews based on local businesses and then shared that writing with the business, which was very exciting for them. And then yoga mats were a very hot item last year. So both in our virtual school and in our physical in-person instruction, students wrote letters to Mr. Epstein. Here's an example from a virtual class in their opinion writing unit showing all the reasons why they should get yoga mats. So Mr. Epstein came to that virtual class, he granted them their yoga mats, and this also happened in our school buildings. So students were super excited to receive their yoga mats, and it actually shows the power that writing and your voice can have to maybe get what you want. So that's what happens during instructional time in Writers' Workshop, and we really hope that that work in Writers' Workshop translates into authentic experiences. So for example, this year, some students are entering a fiction Storyworks writing contest. Last year, 5th graders wrote letters to their teachers. 3rd grade class wrote their own version of an I Survived book, memorializing their experience of learning through a pandemic. And I Survived is a very popular series with the upper elementary grades. And they're able to do this because we have so many tools during writing workshop that supports writers through their process. So if you were to walk in our classrooms, you see anchor charts that look like this that serve as artifacts of learning. And they're also resources that students reference throughout the day as they work. And you can see that teachers add scaffolds and modifications to these charts. On the left, there's a demonstration text on the bottom. On the anchor chart on the right, you can see that there's scaffolds to make sure that we're meeting all the needs of our students in the class. Our classroom spaces are designed for workshops, so teachers have kidney tables, document cameras, tools visible for writers to see, and our teachers are tools for our students. So daily, students are seeing teachers do demonstration writing so that they can see what writing sounds like through Think Aloud, and also looks like in on the board as teachers write in front of them. We have many paper choices for writing as tools. All of our units are attached to checklists that help students with reflection and revision. All of the adults in our classroom support our writers, and then of course, as I mentioned, they have each other. Our teachers are developing systems and routines for workshops like Think Loud and modeling, and then developing systems for writing conferences on the right-hand side there. All of this work happens through a very collaborative effort. So we partner with Teachers College and receive staff development from them. Last year that was virtual on the top, but now our staff developers are coming into our buildings and working with our teachers. We're very excited to actually meet them. They kind of came to life this year. We regularly, as administrators, have reflection meetings to talk about how we can support the work moving forward. I meet with teachers at the beginning of every unit to go over unit goals. And then this past summer, I taught an optional class for teachers that was focused on teaching writing in small groups to work toward that goal of putting an emphasis on small group instruction. Over the past year, we've also refined our system of organizing writing as it travels through the grades with students so that teachers have an organized portfolio of student writing that they can view to start the initial goal setting process. Last year, when I presented on the literacy work, I had shared that we were piloting patterns of power to explicitly teach grammar and conventions, so that went very well. So we've added patterns of power to our scope and sequence. And we've done a little bit of work with connecting with pre-K just to introduce some of the tools like paper choices and writing utensils so that when students in pre-K transition to kindergarten, they have seen some of the routines of writing workshop. We have this year transitioned to using the Teachers College reading units of study, and it's going really well. Our first unit is actually coming to an end this week, and we've set some initial goals. We are making time for reading workshop every day. We're following the reading workshop model, and then of course supporting our teachers with implementing these new units of study. Knowing that we were going to make this transition last year, we did a lot of work as a team to prepare for the launch in September at the end of last year. So we have staff development from Teachers College this year. We made sure in our master schedule that we were dedicating instructional time to reading workshop every day, and then also a small group instruction period every day. We are placing extra support on our readers in their early and emergent reading phase in kindergarten by pairing a reading teacher with every kindergarten class. In some cases, we tweaked our AIS reading schedule to make sure that students are based on need so that they can get targeted instruction, and reading teachers are working with all grade levels. At the beginning of this year, teachers were very excited, so were students, to receive brand new classroom library books, new book bins, and every child received a book baggie to go back and forth between home and school to make sure that they had books to read in both spaces. And as I said, we are wrapping up Unit 1. This is a very exciting time to actually share this presentation with you. Last week, I had the pleasure of attending some kindergarten celebrations, and I just wanted to show you that, even through masks, you can see like the big smiling faces of kindergarten students and then their school community cheering them on in their end of unit parade and celebration. So moving on to the secondary level, last year, our primary goal was to add in writing units of study that were reflective of the next generation learning standards. So we did that. And this year, our goal is to really work on the implementation of those units and really focus on writing as a process. In 6th grade, we are in our year 1 implementation of the TC writing units of study. And in grades 9 through 12, we did put a comprehensive research experience into our units of study. And I'll share that with you in just a minute or two. In grade 6, we followed a similar process as our K-5 rollout for the TC writing units. Our 6th grade teachers have been collaborating so much in these first weeks of school to make sure that they are supporting writers as they enter middle school. And then in grades 7 through 12, as I mentioned, really working on writing as a process with multiple rounds of revision. And we also created a new writing portfolio that's digitized that students will have with them in their drive. And they're going to collect artifacts of their writing that are outlined by the New York State standards that they'll have with them. And here are just some images of the writing work at the secondary level getting started this year. And here's our new research trajectory that we put in our curriculum. So we designed very intentionally this path from 9 to 12. In English 9, the reading focuses that students are learning to read for research and informational text. And then they're going to write an annotated bibliography and do a formal presentation of research. They're going to have a contrasting experience in English 10, where students are reading to research fiction in short story clubs, and then they're going to write a formal literary argument paper. These two contrasting experiences will prepare students for whatever path they take in 11 and 12. So you can see that whether a student is in English 11 or HL1, they're going to read to research opinion or argument and write from sources. And then senior year, no matter which course they're in, is a culmination year where we put these skills together. In English 12, we have a community research project. HL2, we have our higher level essay. And in super writing, research skills are applied throughout that coursework. We also talked as a team a lot about how this foundational work in English can support students in their content area classes as well, because they are engaging in the research process in other classes. So we're hoping that that supports students in other classes. At the middle school and the high school, we have new electives that are focused in the area of writing. So at the middle school, we have a graphic novel writing class. And in April of last year, Jerry Kraft, who's the first author to ever win a Newbery for a graphic novel, actually visited the students taking that class and talked to him about his process as a writer. And here are just some student reflections about their first year in graphic novel writing. A lot of them focused on the appreciation for the multimodal nature of the course and how they learned other skills like time management because they did work on a graphic novel publication over time, which takes a lot of stages and work in that process. This year we have a new journalism course where students are simulating a publication career. And in our curriculum, we've created many opportunities for students in the class to connect with other areas of the high school, like the yearbook, the news studio. We're in the early stages of a partnership with students writing for the Herald so that they're getting a really diverse experience in the area of journalism. We did do a little redesign to our approach to academic intervention services through creating a writing seminar course. And this course gives students more time in school for writing under the guidance of their teacher. And in our planning, we saw that many students recommended for writing seminar were English language learners. So we're in the early stages of a partnership with Nassau Community College in the area that works with ELS at Nassau. And we're talking with them about what's done in remedial courses at Nassau Community College that we can remedy at the high school level so that students don't have to pay for courses that are non-credit. They can enter college and begin taking credit-bearing courses immediately. Our students in Talented Writers continue to earn Scholastic Art and Writing Awards for their achievements. And then last year, during the pandemic, as an English department, we continuously checked in with students many different ways. Using a survey was probably our most popular way to get data to see what students were thinking, how they were feeling. And they gave us such powerful reflections. And we put those together. And Educational Leadership magazine actually recognized the power that our students' voices had. And they published a piece about them in September this year called Student Perspectives on a Pandemic, and shared this in a national magazine for educators to share it, which was pretty powerful. So everything that I just described here fits wonderfully into our new profile of a graduate. So things like being hardworking, self-management skills, perseverance, that's all part of writing workshop and writing as a process, instead of only approaching writing as a task. So we want students to be able to sit with their writing, engage in a process, get feedback from others, and work on something over time. And independence that is the purpose of engaging in a workshop model. So I'm going to let the students finish telling you this story about what it's like for them to be writers in the Palm Beach Public Schools.
Writers of Long Beach schools have been developing their writing identity. They have embraced each stage of the writing process, have been making choices about writing topics, and have explored the idea that writing gives us a voice to share about what we are passionate for. Come join me as we travel through each of the buildings, starting at West School and traveling east, to hear from writers themselves about the work that they have been doing. Let's go.
What are we doing?
We're stretching out sounds.
Stretching out sounds, and what are we making as we stretch out our sounds? Words. So can you tell me, what is the picture of?
Octopus.
How can we stretch out octopus? What would it be begin with?
Oh.
Oh. What other sounds do you hear in octopus? Do you hear T?
P.
Keep going, what else do you hear? Octopus. Beautiful job.
I fell and got hot. Then I got back up. Then it was time to go home.
Jacob, what are you doing as a writer?
I'm using my word card to write that. When I was done with my homework, I put my feet on with Daddy, and then we went down to drive Lido School.
Drove to Lido School. Then what did you do?
And then we played because we were really early, so we played some soccer with my cousin's cousin. One day, me and my friend were playing in a fort. And then we played with our dog. And then me and her made houses. The end. I'm generating ideas for my partner in writing. People, the things I do in my free time, I read, I organize, and I play my brother. People I care about is my brothers, my mom, and my dad. Places I've lived in and visited, Puerto Rico, Long Beach, and Manhattan. We're working on a second story. After winning so many baseball games, we have to face the best team in the league, the Goldfish Heads. I was so nervous, I couldn't face them. That night, I thought about quitting. I thought that I would lose. Whoever wins this gets to the finals, and whoever wins gets the trophy. You're thinking about my story?
Yeah, we were thinking about something bad that happened to you. Right? And then what?
Then we touched the paper.
Yeah, we touched the blank paper and we told
My story.
the story. And then what was our
We draw the story, and then we write the story.
Excellent.
What we're doing is we're basically annotating on a student's writing to see what they did on this writing checklist. Collaboration is a good writing. Mark a circle, a part of the paragraph, was evidence of that they wrote about them thinking about something. And now we're looking on finding something about description, action, and dialogue. I read a story. I made less important parts shorter and less detailed parts and blended storytelling and summary as needed. What parts do you think weren't there for? I think maybe there are 5 and maybe 8 quarter. I don't really think she did this because most of the parts are like all the same. So I'll say not yet. Yeah, not yet.
That's definitely a draft. So one way I generate ideas is by thinking of first times, last times, or times that I will always remember. And so my first idea was my grandpa's 80th birthday. My whole family was there, all my cousins. It was so much fun. But I didn't choose that because there were too many things going on. And then I did a splish splash, which I've only gone there once, and it was my first time, and it was so much fun. And that one was definitely an easier one to write about. Hello, my name is Alan Rodriguez, and this is my narrative lead. So it is our second football game, and I finally get the starting spot, and boy oh boy, it feels great. I always show what I can do on that football field, and they never gave it to me. So this is my idea to show them.
And right into the day today, today we're learning about how pit bulls affect the United States and should they be banned or not. So right now we're taking notes on whether you believe should pit bulls be banned or should they not be banned. So we took a debate in class and we all agreed to do this subject.
I'm a graphic novelist. With learning how to create a 3 to 9 journals, and it could be based on high school story or real life. I like this class because we get to learn how to use these new technology and storyboard, and we get to express what we learn in class.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm a member of Talented Writers, and my goal as a writer this year is to both learn Spanish and English and to develop them in the writing that I do every day and in my pieces.
My name is Ryan. I'm in 11th grade. I'm taking journalism. Right now, we are doing an interview. I chose to interview my soccer coach, Leo Palacio. He's a pretty interesting guy. He's had a long career in sports and now in coaching. He's pretty important to the school. What I'm doing now is I am writing down my questions to ask him, which I'll be interviewing tomorrow, Friday. And right now I'm just ordering of how I'm going to interview him. And I'm pretty excited because he's a funny guy, charismatic guy. I can't wait.
This is when I was back in Mexico, and I would go get the groceries with my mom, and it was my first time trying grasshoppers, so I really enjoyed them, and I decided to start taking them to snack time for school, in elementary school. And everybody would, everybody's faces would be like, ugh.
Right now in English, we're working on personal narratives. So this is an excerpt from my memoir. It took me barely a week after getting the instrument to learn of its negative history. Mules are unpopular enough that there are pages online dedicated to viola jokes.
which has been accumulating since the 1700s. That's 300 years stuck at the bottom of the musical hierarchy. How do you keep a viola from getting stolen? Put it in a viola case.
I wrote my college essay and I titled it Little Miss Talk a Lot. I decided to do this because throughout my whole life, everyone has said I've talked a lot. And I wanted to write something that was different than most people and also something that I've lived through my whole life. So this is a little bit of what I wrote. To conclude it, I wrote, conversation is not something that should be stifled. It is good for the heart, it is good for the soul, it is good for humanity. The art of talking has brought me closer to so many individuals, allowing me to gain insight to so many different perspectives in life. Wouldn't the world be a better place if people would just stop and have a conversation?
I've been writing since 8th grade and writing fiction and poetry, but over the past 4 years, my writing has advanced and I went from being sort of, I loved to write, but I was inexperienced and I didn't really understand the creative process or sentence structure and that kind of thing. And through the Talented Writers program and English class, my writing progressed, and I actually won 2 Scholastic Art and Writing Silver Key Awards. So I'm just going to read a short sample from a poem I wrote that won a Silver Key Award called Babylon. A doll in Solka, drunk on sweat from battle, collapses. A black horse darts by his salt-filled eyes, and life runs out from his neck. The news travels to a doll's father, weaving a fleeting zephyr of wind. Solka, an aged man from Nineveh, falls to his knees in the rain under an olive tree. His estate is vast, stretching to the wine dark sea, but today he is draped in black, slipping in and out of consciousness.
My college essay is about a big life-changing event that happened to me a few months ago that kind of sparked a period of personal growth. I had started with something that I had previously written and was inspired to expand on it. So this is the beginning of my essay. Flipping through the pages of Grace and Fury, I paused to think about Naomi, the main character. How her life is suddenly filled with gowns and fancy food and beautiful terraces, yet she feels cold and empty inside. How her sister is torn away from her and she has no clue if she will be okay. How every bone inside of her longs for the life she once had. And I think to myself, I understand.
Hi, I'm Samantha Adio, and I'm going to be talking about narrative writing. In English class, we learned how to reflect on life experiences and how to write based on our life experiences and how it allowed us to grow as a person. In my college essay, I wrote about a teacher, Mr. Spitz, who really taught me how to become the best math student that I could become. He inspired me to want to pursue math in the future. And he taught me how to incorporate math in my life and also to make it fun. After his passing, I was really touched and I wanted to continue to make him proud even though he's gone. In the future, I want to continue doing narrative writing because it allowed me to express my feelings and to grow as a person.
I hope you enjoyed all of the work that you saw to help bring alive the writing process and help our students develop as writers. And we look forward to the next stages in our development as a group of writers.
So hopefully the students brought to life a lot of what I had shared with you in the presentation. And in honor of the Recognition Week for the Board of Education, I want to thank you for all the work that you support in our areas of reading and writing. Thank you.
Would have been comments? Any?
Yeah, can I go?
Please, comments.
Wow. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation, especially where you loved the way you ended it with the students. You could really see their engagement, how excited they were to share all of their writing with you on the camera and as well as with their peers. So I was actually looking at your last year's presentation, the literacy landscape, and I could see the progression And I know that it took a lot of work on your part and with our teachers, so I would like to publicly thank you for that. I know this does not happen in a day. It takes a lot of people and a lot of effort, so thank you so much for all of that. I just actually have just a couple of questions. Do you feel that, first of all, the reading books and the writing books, do you feel that you have enough of the resources that you need to support the program?
For the reading
For
units
the
of
reading
study?
and the writing, yes.
So,
I remember last year you were talking about the book bins.
yes, so we did that work. We ordered new picture books, I think I was telling you last year, and then we did the classroom library updates. Each year, classroom libraries, should be updated, so that's definitely a continued resource that, we look forward to adding to our classroom libraries. But to start the year, our classrooms they're beautiful. They have so many books. Kids are so happy with them. The book baggies are working out great. So to start the launch we're in a great place. And I look forward to updating those libraries each year for the continued work.
Okay, great. Yeah. How much time a day do the students have to participate in their writing program? I'm sure it varies per year, but.
Right, about 45 minutes a day. So the
every
period
day?
of writing workshop, yeah.
Excellent.
And depending on my grade level, younger kids, we might start out with 30 or 35 minutes and build our stamina to 45 throughout the year. But average, we work up to that.
Now, I'm sure you've seen a lot more changes. So do you have like another thing that you can share with us? What other positive changes have you seen from the writing and reading programs since going to TC?
I think student voice, like to talk about their process. They have an identity as a reader. I mean, just watching that celebration last week in kindergarten was the best moment of the year. They have identities as readers and writers. When I walk into a classroom and I talk with a student, what are you working on as a writer? What are you doing in reading workshop today? They're able to talk about their process. And I think for students to have ownership of that work is absolutely incredible. And that's because teachers use that language to talk to their students daily. So it becomes just what the community is working on,
That's wonderful. I just have one more question. You mentioned briefly that you're talking to Nassau Community College about some remedial courses. What areas do you see our students needing more guidance in?
So when we looked at, not only in the context of writing seminar, also we're going to do this work in our English 11 and 12 classes. We started talking with representatives from Nassau Community College about what they see writers needing, English language learners, when they take remedial courses. And we want to work to, attend to that at the high school so that students don't have to take courses in remediation as much at the college level. So we looked at some of their writing prompts that they give in those remedial courses. We looked at some of their evaluation tools, and we want to kind of emulate that and take some of that work and implement it into our programming so that they feel more ready in the area of writing once they enter college.
Mrs. Conway, if I could just add, Dr. Deese and I participated in a meeting yesterday with Nassau Community College's English chair and a professor, because we're actually trying to align our English 12 course so that our students could get 6 SUNY credits for taking the English 12 course, which would be a tremendous benefit at a very low price for our kids. And they commented that we've already done so much of the alignment work that it'll be a pretty short cut to get us to the point where we'll be able to give our students credit for that. That's great, thank you. And I'm also very happy that you mentioned that you're engaging the students in the writing process and that you're teaching them the perseverance that they need to be a writer. And I do think that's very important. And I'm so happy to see that you are sequencing this so appropriately throughout the grades.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else?
Oh.
Strong.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Reviews. That was a wonderful presentation, and I also loved the students highlighting their writing. Just to stick with the Nassau Community College aspect for a moment, Are we only doing that with respect to our ELL learners, or we're doing that with respect to all of our students?
All of our students in English 12 to align with English Comp 101, 102. In the context of writing seminar, it's all students who are participating in that, but we did identify that there are a number of English language learners in that seminar course, so we want to support them in their language development relative to their writing development.
Because I seem to remember, and this is a few years ago now, I seem to remember some crazy statistic that like 50% of students nationwide had to take remedial courses when they got to college. But I also have a friend who is a professor who teaches freshman writing, and she says she's appalled. So I'm so thrilled to hear that. I mean, I know for my own son that he knew how to write, but he got out of multitype, so I know that it was already good, and to hear that we're doing even better than that is thrilling. Because I would hate for any kid to have to take a remedial course. That's the whole point of us being in high school, right? That they're ready for college, if that's what they choose.
Right.
I just have a couple of really kind of probably silly questions. Why do we give them clear pens in K2?
A couple of reasons. So the contrast, the dark marker on the white paper. Also, pencils could be very distracting with erasers, and writers become fixated on erasing, what they perceive as errors. So we want to really concentrate on the thoughts, getting the ideas on the paper, and then work on some of those editing strategies later. So that's why we do clear pens. And then cross it back over to in grade 3.
Great. I hope they're erasable just for the mom's sake. Okay, I just had a couple of other questions. I was thrilled to see that we were including grammar as more than a pilot. I can't tell you how important that is. Well, you know how important it is, but I'm glad that we're finally making a concerted effort to work on the kids' grammar. And I ask this question every year, please don't leave me out.
No.
Are the kids learning cursive writing?
Yes, they are.
Excellent.
They started
When did they
2
do
weeks
that?
ago, Wilson cursive.
And what grade?
3rd.
And then, is that it? They have it in 3rd grade and then that's it?
They're formally taught it in 3rd grade, yes.
Okay.
And they have materials for it.
Okay, I think. Okay, I think it's great. I think what we're doing is great. There was one thing at the end. Could you send us perchance and maybe put on the website this article that you were referring to at the end of your presentation?
Sure.
Where our students
Absolutely.
reflections
In
on.
the educational leadership?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That would be
absolutely.
great. I would love to read that.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I just, Ms. Verona said a couple of things I was gonna ask you. I would love a copy of that as well.
Sure.
So yeah, I would love to see that. And thank you for just having such a nice grasp on your presentation. It was clear, to me, I know it's not easy to get up here and present, and you just did it with such grace. And it just shows that, not only you're comfortable with the information, but you're really kind of living it with the students. So I appreciated your presentation.
Thank you.
One thing I noticed that I loved, and you had it in the video and also in here, is the peer reflection, that they share with each other and they're able to critique it. In business, we do that all the time, and it's a skill that if you don't learn when you're young, it can be intimidating, to go to a coworker. So I just think that that's a really great thing that I haven't seen done often. But overall, it's just a beautiful presentation, and of course, having the children. It's one thing for you to present it, but when we can see them living it, they do it. And I love that you scanned all the grades, and it started with the little kids, which are just so adorable, but then all the way up, to our seniors who are in these, high-level classes. It just did a beautiful job, and thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Great presentation. Thank you for the spotlights as well. Quick question: how are we, preserving in the higher level grades? Not needing to rely on computerized typing and texting and shorthanding and using autocorrects and spell check before using it. Mostly trying to figure out how are we preserving the tangible skill of writing without automatic relying on technology.
That's a great question. The teachers in the English department actually embrace print still. So for example, they may do like an on-demand argument piece handwritten, right? And then maybe at the end of the year, they'll do it, on the Chromebook. So there's definitely, in general, a mixture of print and digital composition. Larger pieces are composed most often on the Chromebook, but there is an integration of print work as well. They really value that. So, yeah. Especially in the revision stages of writing.
Yeah, I too appreciated your synthesis to go through pre-K to 12 in 20 minutes was wonderful. And it was very comprehensive, so thank you for that. I had a few concerns. First was I expressed doubt about the Columbia program. Not necessarily the intent of the program, but offering it during COVID. And I thought that our experience might be compromised because of COVID and because of the virtual experience. So having gone through the year and through COVID, were we compromised in terms of did we maximize the Columbia contribution despite setback?
I think we did. Just to speak to the staff development, they were extremely instrumental in helping our teachers learn the units, learn the goals, learn instructional practices, and then teachers, it was actually a bright light. A lot of that work that was shown, the images, was from last year with the publishing parties and kids celebrating. So I definitely think that writing still flourished last year. But also considering the challenges, that's why we are working on those year one goals this year as well, just to continue to support teachers, make sure everybody's comfortable. So we are conscious of that.
Yeah, my second point is just the notion of a short essay. I've also raised in the past that other academic areas introduced beyond the multiple choice and beyond Scantrons, a short essay, that it not just be writing in English, but there'd be a short essay in a history test or a science test or something outside of writing. Are you seeing, particularly at the upper grades and secondary, where this is in fact happening?
In content area classes?
Yes.
I don't know on the day-to-day, to be honest. I know that they are part of Regents exams and students need to write to demonstrate their understanding. So, I'm sure teachers are supporting students with that work.
I hope that you, in your departmental meetings, are asking your colleagues in those academic areas to include that. I know it might be tough to grade, but I do think the kids need as much writing experience as they can across the different disciplines. The third part, I'd like to piggyback on Mrs. Verona, and that was my concern with spelling, grammar, parts of speech, and those kinds of fundamentals, I guess, for want of another word.
Yeah.
So this little girl had a little essay, and she began the essay, "Excuse can be me and my best friend," and on and on and on. So when would there be a revision in that little girl's essay in terms of proper use of pronouns, and how long would that go before she would be asked to revise or be corrected, or would there be some kind of feedback in terms of content?
In the case of that writer, probably a day or two after that, when I filmed that video. So she was in the initial stages of the writing process. You saw that she had her sketches and her approximations. She practiced the touching and telling. And as far as her small moment that she was working on, that was a comprehensive small moment. So the next step would be, and there are sessions in our units of study that focus on spelling and editing, to teach her some of the more conventional skills of writing. But that happens over time, especially in K to 2.
I'm certainly dating myself, but 7 and 10 years ago, you'd go to every elementary class and you'd see the sandwich. And you'd see the model of writing, the hamburger.
Yeah.
Yes, every class you went into, it was the ELA hamburger.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see that I didn't notice a hamburger at all in any of the videos that were up.
Yep.
And to me, that alone is progress in terms of writing with a conceptualization.
Right.
If you had anything to do with the elimination of the burger, I'm particularly grateful. And thank you for that. And I guess my last piece is just concerning the evaluation of language arts or English, whatever we call it, through the grades. Is writing, or is creative writing or expressive writing or just writing in general a separate category for children pre-K to 12 in terms of the English language arts grade?
Yes, that's like on the elementary report card, you mean?
Right, yes.
Right, yes.
Yeah. And that is that just a 1, 2, 3, or 4 in terms of how is that evaluated?
So at the elementary level, there are indicators that, there's really an indicator that matches for each stage that you kind of saw in the video. And it is evaluated on a 1 to 4 scale. And then at the secondary level, we talk about this all the time, because so much of the emphasis is on process work, but we still live in a 0 to 100 world, in grading at the middle school and high school. So we use rubrics, we use checklists for evaluation, and we work together as grade level teams to use those process tools to convert to grades.
And my final question is concerning law, the application. Do we feel that our best students are getting enough opportunities in terms of writing within the law program?
Writing within when they're in
Yeah,
law?
in law, is writing a substantive part of that program? Or is it more a theme?
Writing is integrated into LARP. I don't think it's taught the way that it is in writing workshop,
Right.
but it's definitely one way in which students express themselves.
Okay, right. Once again, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Anybody else up here? No? Okay, moving along. Student organization announcements? Okay, questions or comments from the public on tonight's agenda only? We have approval of minutes for executive session and regular meeting of October 12th, 2021. We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion, Ms. Pace? You said yes? Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Pinto?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Ms. Verona?
Yes.
Conway?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Presentation of the superintendent?
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. First, we'd like to, I'd ask the district clerk to read a resolution regarding an appeal of a student suspension. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Long Beach City School District hereby denies the appeal of the suspension of a student identified in confidential attachment A, dated October 22nd, 2021, and authorizes the board president to notify the parent of its decision in writing. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Pinto?
Yes.
Ms. Verona?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Item number 1 is certificate of personnel.
I make the motion, do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Pinto?
Yes.
Ms. Verona?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Item 2 is non-certificate of personnel.
Motion. Second.
I'd just like to ask, what is the Chase Love formula?
Dr. Romanelli, you want to take that one?
Oh, there's a choose
Choose
love.
love.
Choose Love, yes. So that's the piece of our SEL program that we've rolled out at our elementary, middle, and high schools. So it talks about things like gratitude, compassion, going through all those different parts of the Choose Love program, and working with students to incorporate that in their own lives.
And we feel that's a significant offering for after school in terms of the end of the day and in terms of the program.
Yes, so that's really just the vehicle, to go through other different activities. Students will be able to use the Choose Love formula to also participate in different writing activities, reading activities, different STEM activities. So it's just going to basically be the vehicle in which they complete those other activities.
I'd just like to raise, maybe at this time, and maybe it's just kind of new business, but I was just concerned when we talked about, I call it the Biden money. It's just the money that's coming in terms of COVID and COVID relief. And we're trying to offer programs to kids to help them to enrich school. But I was just concerned about band and music. Because in the past, I know we talked about the academics, I know we talked about reading, we talked about SEL things, social emotional learning things. But it may be me, I don't quite remember any kind of conversation around music or music enrichment. And I was wondering if it could be possible between now and the allotment of this money that we consider offering, whether it's instrumental, particularly elementary level, the kids have lost valuable instructional time with their respective instruments. some kind of remedial or enrichment or compensatory, whatever we want to call it, programs along the lines of this, because I think that would be a substantial offering for many of our kids.
We certainly can do that, Dr. Ryan. The first round of our elementary enrichment clusters, we allowed teachers to kind of identify within the goal of advancing learning, the things that they wanted to offer. But as we move on through the year, we can make some additional suggestions for things that would fit that. And I certainly think, music lessons and even art lessons are a valuable part of that as well.
Any other discussion? Okay, resolution B, please. Pinto?
So we're voting on two now, right?
Two.
Yeah.
That was a conversation on one that we voted on already?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, well, yes.
Okay. Ms. Braun?
Yes. Yes.
Item number 3 is a waiver of additional reads and the adoption of revised policy, public use of school facilities. And again, we had just revised this and went through the revision process a few weeks ago. We did add something just to clarify the fees that we charge to organizations and make sure that was referenced in the policy.
May I have a motion?
Motion.
Well, it's policy, so do we vote on this at all?
Yes.
It's
That's because of the revision, okay? I'll second the motion. Any discussion?
I have one question.
Yeah.
The reason I had brought this up was because there was a discrepancy between the form and the policy. What happens to the money that we collect? Is it going to a line? Do we break even when our buildings are being used from early morning until late at night? Like, what happens financially with all of that?
Yeah, it's generally just to cover our expenses. Mr. DeVito, anything to add to that?
Yes, so the revenue goes into the general fund, and there's a code, like the fees, I think it's like miscellaneous fees or a code like that. And it does cover our additional costs. So for example, if there's some sort of a use of a room and we would have cleaned it in the morning and we don't have to clean it before the use, there's no additional cost there. But if it's something in the way that something's being used that we need to clean before and after, then that's something we would bill for, then that revenue goes into, it's like a general fees type of code.
Well, what are we talking? Are we talking like $1,000 a year, $1 million a year, like somewhere in like
It's not a lot.
It's not a lot. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, please.
Yes.
Ms. Pinto?
Yes.
Ms. Verona?
Yeah.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
I vote yes.
I ask the board to consider items 4 through 6 together.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have one question. What is Super Soccer Stars that's using our facilities? Is that a local organization?
I believe it is, Mrs. Verna, but I don't have that form in front of me. I have to look at that.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. Okay. If you could just get back to us and that would be great. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I think it's nice to see other school districts using our pool. Show what a great resource we have for the district, for the community, and for others.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Pace?
Yes.
Ms. Pinto?
Yes.
Ms. Verona?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
I vote yes. Board of Education, additional to all business, if any?
I just have a comment. First off, last time we had a meeting, I was asking Mr. DeVito about the roof of the high school. And my frustration really was that the leakage of the roof, not anything that Mr. DeVito had done. So Mr. DeVito, I'm sorry if I came across as taking frustration out on you. I didn't mean to do that. But since it is raining, how is our roof holding up?
Well, not as good as we would have liked. So, as you may know, back in 2014, we had a part of the roof done in anticipation of the majority of the roof being done through the energy performance contract. And last night, or over the last night, the heavy rains into this morning, that showed that there's still some leaks, even though we've had roofing contractors come over the last few weeks.
But the good news is that we've been able to identify better, we think, the source of the leak, so that hopefully it will help the contractor who's still under warranty to come and address the concerns. Over the past several weeks, we've had a lot of dry weather, so we didn't really experience anything. And I've learned that it also depends on how the wind is blowing and how the rain is coming in terms of where actually we're seeing some water penetration. But what we are seeing in terms of a pattern is that the water is coming through the stair tower. So it has something to do with the way the capping of the roof was adhering to some of the stair tower walls. So hopefully we're getting closer to identify the source of the problem. It's a real source of frustration and disappointment to the facilities department because we were really counting on the new roof that was done a couple of years ago to really solve all of our leak problem. But we'll keep working on it until it's all fixed. And again, we have these companies under warranty and we'll keep having them come until it's all fixed.
Okay, is anything damaged this time or?
I wasn't aware of any damage. I know that it comes in and it creates a situation where you can see it coming down a wall or you can see it dripping down from the ceiling. Maybe there's a ceiling tile that's damaged, but that's nothing major that could be replaced. But I didn't hear about any specific items that were damaged. I just saw some photos this morning and I had some conversations with the facilities group to see how we can further address the problem that we saw from the storm last night.
Well, I'm sure you will be very diligent, Mr. Bureau, making sure that our roof is fixed so we don't have these issues anymore.
Yeah, thank you. It's something that we really are working towards because it's something that's a priority for us.
And you will keep us updated, I'm sure.
Yes.
Thank you. Also, the girls' bathroom doors, when do we have a deadline for, not a deadline, but do we have a timeline for renovation?
Yes, so we've been trying to do the short-term fixes by adjusting the doors every day. We did order new, these are the girls' locker room toilet partitions over in the gymnasium. We ordered the new partitions. They should be here by the end of the week. And they'll either be fixed when we don't have school in session, either on election day or sometime soon thereafter. But we're shooting for something soon as the contractor can come in. But the items should be on site by the end of this week.
Thank you. Also, some happy news. This weekend, I was able to go and watch some of the badminton from Nassau counties that we had at our gym. I have to say, everyone was so happy to be there. The students were thrilled. There aren't many boy badminton teams out there, but we do have, and our students really had a wonderful time. They played great. They showed excellent sportsmanship. I heard so many positive things about our students that it would just really made my heart glad. And then also on Saturday, I was able to go to a volleyball game, a volleyball tournament out in St. Anthony's that our varsity team participated in. And I just want to say, I was so pleased to see not just the sportsmanship of the parents and of the students, but the bus driver. Our bus driver came and cheered on our kids like he was one of the parents. He was absolutely amazing. And I just thought that just showed how much our Long Beach staff cares about our kids. So I thought it was just a really wonderful way for the girls to see, and for the team to see, and for the parents to see that we're all one family. I just have really one more question, just to follow up on last week. Have we heard anything from the state about any type of mass metrics at all? I know we just sent that out.
I have heard nothing back from my inquiries. I believe our letter from the board and from the superintendent, this is still on that one out Friday, is that right?
Yeah, we announced FedEx on Monday.
Monday, so.
I don't know that they would have had time, that's fine. I didn't expect, anyway, I'm just hoping. All right, thank you.
Any other board members in the old business?
I just have one thing on new business. I agree with sentiments earlier about the Wall of Fame, and homecoming was a great weekend. I also want to give a shout out to Lido parents and the PTA and the administration there for what I heard was an awesome color run. I wasn't able to make it because it worked, but I heard it was off the hook, if that makes any sense. But yeah, great job, everyone.
Anybody else?
I have a couple of things.
So at the last meeting, we had talked about the National School Board Association letter, and the board had authorized me to research that. I just want to give you a little of the results of that, of my investigation, even though we know that everything has changed since then. I did speak to the executive director of NISBA, which is our state school boards association, who indicated that no input had been sought, and that the letter and the relief sought by the National School Boards Association from the Department of Justice was not applicable in New York State. That our New York State people had done a survey, and that 80% of school board members felt that there weren't any problems that were disrupting meetings to the extent that that letter indicated. They also said that Mr. Schneider also said that no states were asked for input, that this was an internal management decision on the part of the National School Boards Association. So my question to him was, well, what do they do for us? Because if they're going to do things that without asking for our input, since then, so for anybody who's been watching or not watching, National School Boards has distanced themselves from the letter. They said they're sorry, they sent it, they didn't mean it, and they don't really think they think that safety of school board members is an issue, but that they shouldn't have sent the letter out. The Department of Justice, who responded immediately to the initial letter, has not correspondingly said that their efforts are going to be shut down. So we don't exactly know. I think that might be resolved tomorrow. But Mr. Schneider at the New York School Boards Association did indicate that National School Boards does a lot of lobbying on behalf of school districts on a federal level. In terms of IDEA, E-rates, mandate relief, those kind of bigger issues. Because I have seen since then in the news that there are states that are withdrawing from the National School Boards Association. So New York State has put the National School Boards Association on notice that they are going to review their membership at the end of this year to make sure that the needs of New York State school boards are being met by the National Association before they are going to renew their membership. So I think that we as a district are a member of National School Boards. I'm not sure about that. I know we used to be. But could we find out if that's the case? And if so,
I don't actually think we are. Lori, do you know?
We might have dropped it because
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, great. Okay, then that's not. So keep an eye on the news, because the Department of Justice is talking to the Senate tomorrow, who is allegedly going to ask them if they're going to stop going after parents who want to speak in school board meetings. I do note that we were supposed to have the meeting tonight at West School. It was our originally scheduled location for this meeting. We like to get around into the district once a year to other buildings for meetings. And I understand that because of COVID and social distancing, this is the biggest space, so we want to stay here. But I would hope that at some point in the spring, when we're back to normal, if you will, if we would be able to reschedule that meeting at West School.
Of course.
Of course, okay. I see that the high school drama is scheduled in mid-November. Is that going to be a live production?
It is?
Is it also going to be streamed or?
Yes, we're going to do both for those who can't.
Okay, beautiful, great, thank you. And the last meeting I had asked about the work at the West End Community Center, and you said there were supply chain issues. Is that done now, or should I forget about that for a while? Ask about it later.
I think we should just talk about that offline. Next one.
Yes.
What?
We need to talk to you about that offline.
Oh, okay. Okay, any word on our operating surplus / deficit for the 2021 school year?
Sure, so the financial statements have not completely been finalized by the external auditor yet, but we do have a pretty good working number. that it seems as though we will be able to do the transfers that we had arranged to do last spring. Board passed the resolution, I guess it was, July 1. Board passed the resolution to transfer approximately $5 million back into the capital reserve fund and approximately 1.1, I think it was, into the teachers retirement fund, retirement system reserve fund, and we'll still be able to have the $3 million buffer for FEMA reimbursement that we've had and kept for the past several years, 4%, and an additional $3.2 million that we'll be able to at some point use to appropriate to the tax levy for the following year, as well as put some money into other reserve funds.
Holy moly! Are we paying?
We did not spend as much as we thought we were going
Okay,
to spend.
so in addition to the 4%, we have 6.1, and forget the 3 million, we'll just take the 3 million out. So in addition to that, we have $9.3 million in addition to the 4%?
Well, it would be 6.1 plus 3.2, so that's 9.3.
9.3 plus 4%?
Plus 4%.
Well, we should be turning a lot of that money back over, yes?
Well, in theory, it would be great to do that, but if we don't, so let's say, for example, the tax levy is $100 million for next year. If we appropriate $3 million to that, so that we only ask for 97, the following year, right, we may need $102 million, and if we've only asked for 97, then that means we have to come up with $5 million, which for the most part is going to be a spike in the tax levy. So instead of returning the bulk of that 3.3, I would say that we can appropriate a nice portion of it, just so that we don't have a spike the following year, but I wouldn't necessarily put the whole thing.
Okay, so then what happens? Because already the auditor says, okay, you can have your 4% plus you can have your extra 3 million because we haven't resolved all the Sandy stuff with FEMA yet. But when they see another $9 plus million in there, they're gonna say, or the New York State is gonna say, you gotta get rid of that money out of there.
Right. Well, as long as, this was really unforeseen. I mean, when we went into COVID, into the year, last year, knowing that we were gonna be dealing with a lot of COVID expenses, we increased the budget. I think it was over $4 million. We did a budget modification in anticipation of having a large amount of atypical expenditures. We ended the prior year, right, 2020, right, ending in 2020, with, if you recall, a large amount of an operating surplus. At that point, we could have put it into reserve fund, which is what we typically would have done, and appropriate a certain portion to offset the following year's tax levy. But we decided to hold off on that because we wanted to take that surplus and use it to modify the budget of last year because we anticipated more staffing, more expenditures related to COVID. As it turned out, part of it is the reason because we got a lot of extra revenue with some of the federal money that came in. We thought we were going to be experiencing a cut in state aid. We got additional federal money. Our expenditures were not as great as we thought it was going to be, and we were planning in September, I think, is when we did the budget modification. But if you take a look, and I can show you, on just like a very simple table, that the surplus is really from 2 years ago, that we had just put over into last year so that we had the extra money. So in talking to the auditors about this, they're aware that, listen, we did our best to try to plan for what we thought were going to be a lot more expenditures in a COVID year. And although it's not recommended to have more than the 4%, they understand why. It's not typical for us to have something like this. And, next year we'll deal with it. Like I said, we certainly can appropriate more than what we have to make sure that the tax levy is as low as we can. And then we'll put some of that in reserve funds, which is what we would have done 2 years ago if we didn't think we needed that money for COVID last year.
I do seem to recall the board, a specific board trustee asking several times, where were these to kind of delineate what these extra COVID expenses were going to be throughout the year.
Yeah, we did a presentation on that.
But then they never materialized?
No, not to the degree that we thought. And again, part of it is the additional revenue. So part of it is the fact that these expenditures were not as great as we thought they were going to be. And part of it was we received, I think it was $2 million more of revenue than we thought we were gonna receive, based on some of the
That's
federal
still a
money.
lot of money. Okay, I'm not complaining. I'd rather have.
I mean, we will certainly, we'll certainly use some of it to offset the following year's tax levy and have some of it in reserve funds if we need it in the future. So, it's not like it's going to waste. We're actually, efficient in how we spent our money, and we ended up the year with more than we thought.
I might just jump in on this too. We've oftentimes talked about capital projects, and not having enough money for some of the projects that needed to be done. So it's nice to have the surplus in there. And the second point is, I saw that Hertz just ordered 100,000 new electric cars. And I've been asking the last couple of years that we certainly explore buses in terms of that. And it's something that I think as we move into budget time, we might want to give some thought to that as well as a group. So I just wanted to put that on the table. Any other discussion?
Well, I just had one more
I'm
thing.
sorry, Ms. Rhoda.
We had talked over the summer, we had talked about, decreasing polling places to 3. I'm not sure if we decided that, if we voted on that, is that set? Where are they?
We did, Ms. Rona, we did pass a resolution that night here in Lindell East and the middle school complex. But the board, so we did do that. What the board is gonna have to do, I think, before the end of December, is decide what we're gonna do in a corresponding manner with the election districts. Are we gonna decrease election districts proportionally, or are we gonna do away with election districts in the school district entirely, that we vote at any one of those 3 places? So there is a follow-up conversation. I don't know if that has to be a resolution or if it's procedural. I can work with council on that, but we did.
Okay, so if we're gonna need to decide something, if we need some information about that, we'll get that information and we put it on. So I just don't want the district clerk to end up in a position where she has to start putting election notices together without having.
Yes, I did speak with her about it extensively, and we'll put together what we need to do.
Okay, great.
We'd have to give the public certainly due notice in terms of
Right,
where they would be voting if they chose to vote.
right, excellent. Okay, beautiful. Thank you, that's all I have.
David,
I just had one question for Michael when he gets a chance. Regarding, I read in the papers the other day that following up on Ms. Verona's comment about funding and the budgets, next year and the years forward, there's going to be a change in how the distribution of foundation aid is going to be going through the state and how they're going to be funding more for the districts and working on equity, et cetera. Could you just do a follow-up with us in the near distant future about how that's going to impact the district?
Sure, I'll try to get some information to you and explain.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Lastly, I just wanted to ask a quick question, Dr. Gallagher. Last year, our students participated in Names Not Numbers, and I know we brought it up at a different meeting, but I don't recall us discussing if the video that the students shot last year was going to be integrated or utilized this year at all.
Yes, it is. In fact, Mr. Myers has the link from the organization. We had to get permission from them to use it. And our social studies teachers will be using it obviously at the appropriate time of the curriculum when they're discussing the
Great, and then the only other comment I wanted to make was I believe our girls swimming, the season ended and I feel like I read that they won the conference. So I just wanted to congratulate them and the coaches. I didn't see it anywhere on the district website, but I feel like I read it somewhere on Facebook. So I wanted to congratulate them on that, on the win of the conference.
Okay.
That's all.
Any questions or comments from the public? Please. Yeah.
Sean Bastuch, 428 West Market. I wrote it down. So the first thing I want to say is maybe I just don't know where I'm supposed to be looking, and that could be a me problem. But I would love if it could be easier, or if someone could treat me like a student who's a tutor, how to find when these meetings move, how to find the things that Dr. Gallagher, you and I were emailing about that you say are on the website. I found out this meeting moved to here when I went to West School, and the janitor told me, I lived. Everybody survived. We're okay.
I'm working. Got it. So it wasn't a big deal. I just would love to be able to find the things that you're saying are readily available online.
So I'm actually working on a little template
for, mostly for, you're a relatively new parent to the district, your kids are young. I think we take for granted that everyone knows where to navigate on the website. I just haven't finished it yet, but it's coming, and it'll clearly show the links where things can be found, and explain a little bit more about the process of board agendas and, when they're posted and where people can look for the presentations that are upcoming in the discussion topics.
I appreciate that, and I wasn't looking for an answer. I appreciate that though. And I imagine minutes are on there as well from these meetings? Okay. The next thing is I want to thank Ms. Conway, or Ms., I don't remember, I think it was Ms. Conway, who mentioned the National School Board Association stuff. I think it's a really good example of, I don't agree with you when I come in here on a lot of things. And I've always felt welcome to come in here and talk to you about those things, and I appreciate that. And I think that it would be a mischaracterization of anybody who sits in the audience to think of you in a general term with a larger group of people who maybe don't represent all of your thoughts. I just wanted to share that with you. So I appreciate that. I also want to thank you for bringing up to Dr. Gallagher whether she's heard back from the state or the county or not. I don't think it should be a surprise at all that you haven't. We have numbers for what is proficiency, what is competency, what are the reading levels, what is the temperature a kid has to come into school, how tall should a kid be, how heavy should a kid be, but no numbers for when masks can come off. Eventually, I'm hoping you guys get as frustrated about this as I am. Along those lines, it's going to be getting cold outside, and we're not going to be able to have the kids outside anymore. And I'm hoping that you have a plan, a thought in mind for what we do in the state and the county, because I assure you, you are not the first person to send that letter. I've asked administrative people from other districts to send that letter, and they've gotten responses that they don't have those numbers. So I'm hopeful that you will be able to do something come the winter time, given that we have people packing into NBA stadiums, concerts, comedy, baseball, football, shoulder to shoulder, and it doesn't feel like the war is falling apart. And that's it. That's all I got here.
Thank you.
You are my
Thank you.
Hi, Jessica LaTour, 666 Neptune Boulevard. I don't think that's working. Okay, Long Beach. I just have a couple of questions about Erin's Law and how it's going to be implemented in the classrooms. First, I'm just going to rattle off a bunch of questions, if that's okay. First, what is the curriculum going to look like? Second, when is the parents' workshop going to happen? Are the parents going to be notified about what topics are going to be covered? Who is going to be leading those discussions and what are their qualifications? And are the schools partnering with the local child advocacy centers, or are they working specifically with psychologists that deal with child sexual abuse in the community? And how are those curriculums being developed?
Dr. O'Malley, you want to take that?
Sure, I'm happy to answer that. For those that don't know about Erin's Law, this was a law that was passed in New York State to talk about child abuse and reporting of child abuse, and it's taught in schools. There is grade level bands for K through 8. On our website, if you go onto the Office of Curriculum and Instruction, I added an Erin's Law section there. That actually includes a parent letter that I sent home just about the law, and it actually includes now our full curriculum of lessons that we'll be teaching in the classrooms. The way that we developed that curriculum was developed in-house, so it's not a canned curriculum that we received from New York State. It was developed in-house with one of our district health teachers and also one of our district guidance counselors. They went through each of the grade level bands and tried to make the most age appropriate lessons as possible with the age level bands. We reviewed them as administrators. We actually had a meeting with all of our health teachers and PPS staff and administrators from across the district so that we could talk about the law and implementation in the classes. Mr. Epstein and I were able to collaborate with all the people in that room. We actually have a parent night that's currently being planned. It will be within the next few weeks. We'll make sure to announce it to the whole district. Ms. Veltri and Ms. Golden, who did the staff workshop, are also going to lead the parent workshop, but there'll be administrators on hand from PPS. Myself will be there, Mr. Epstein, so we can talk about the curriculum itself and also how we're going to support students there. Many of the lessons are lessons that we had previously addressed in our health curriculum, across the district, but there were some areas that were new that we put into the curriculum writing. So I would just say for myself personally, for you or any other parents that are interested, to attend that parent night, but also preview the curriculum. And if there's anything in there, that you have questions about or want to talk about, it's all there. Anything we're doing in class, you can reach out to me or we can, talk further about it. But it's all there on the curriculum instruction website for everybody to see.
So are you expecting during health that's where that curriculum is going to take place with the health teachers?
Well, it depends on the levels, but yes, at middle school, and we also, though, we have incorporated our elementary guidance counselor to go into some of the classrooms at the elementary level as well, to support that and support teachers in the classroom. So that's pretty much the plan. It's a little bit different at each level, but we will outline the exact delivery method at that parent night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, Tam Gaffman, West Country. Dr. Gallagher and I have been engaging in an email conversation, and I just wanted to make the board aware of some of our conversations. The high school conferences are a few days away, middle school conferences less than 2 weeks away, and elementary school conferences shortly after that. We are informed that back to school night would be in person and parent-teacher conferences would be virtual. Virtual meetings, by definition, are a type of collaboration technique where people from anywhere in the world can share their ideas using audio, video conferencing, screen sharing, and webinars. The communication about how conferences will be run this year has been disjointed and last minute, to say the least. We received notification last week that parent-teacher conference signups would take place this past Saturday and would be conducted over the telephone only. On the very last sentence of the email, it states that a parent may request an in-person meeting requested through their child's guidance counselor. Since then, I personally reached out to guidance and the high school administration and was told that parents can always be able to request an in-person meeting when there is a problem. Well, the problem I and other parents faced over the years regarding was Google Classroom and the use of school tools. If teachers were entering the grades into these applications in a timely fashion, it would eliminate the guessing game for parents on what their child's grades were and what their assignments were. Last year, with the implementation of hybrid virtual models, Google Classroom was completely used, and it was honestly one of the best years I had with seeing my child's grades and their assignments that were missing. Let's fast forward to this year. Some teachers have went to the traditional way of pen and paper, and therefore some of us parents do not see some of their classwork in our grades. Parents are now going into conferences on Monday completely blind for some of their child's grades with lack of information before their conference. If Google Classroom and school tools were kept up to date consistently throughout the school year, it would create for more engaging, transparent meetings, not only between the parents and the teachers, but between the parents and their children. Why does there seem to be a lack of transparency and proactive communication with how and why conferences are being held certain ways this year in what seems to be very little parent input, or based on input of a survey taken in the middle of a pandemic? And in the survey, did it state that answers to these questions would be used to decide upcoming events for this upcoming school year? Why are we limiting authentic interactions between parents and teachers when we know the importance of parent involvement and school-home connection? Wouldn't it make sense to have more in-person meetings for parent-teacher conference, give a Zoom option to parents who don't feel the need for in-person rather than the reverse? How can we move forward with giving parents a clear option of in-person meetings without feeling that they're being forced into having a phone conference with being told that you don't have a specific problem? This seems like a huge disservice to many parents who look forward to face-to-face meetings and the opportunity to see students work. Besides convenience, what is the end game here? I know I've learned a lot from COVID and how some things work better to make things more acceptable, but this doesn't seem to be like one of those things. It doesn't seem to benefit the whole. It doesn't seem to have all stakeholders' best interests in mind. Thank you.
Announcements? Excuse me. Did you have another comment?
I did.
All right, please. I asked. I didn't see anybody. Please come to the mic.
Hi, Kate Judge Patton, 233 West Fulton. I just want to thank Mrs. Ackerman because it's great to bring that to light because as an educator and a parent, I know how important it is for parents to be in the building to see the student work hanging up, that we get to see the evidence of what has been happening. And I just really feel that we should have access to the building to see not only the staff, but the student work and to really see the culture of what's happening in the buildings. So that's important. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, announcements? Classroom teachers, PTA, Classroom Teachers Association, announcements?
I'll start off the evening by thanking the school board. Our school board this week. As an organization, it's extremely important to us that we give back to the community, the community organizations that provides us with so much. So like I said, I think most of you know that we kick off the year with the fundraiser for Making Strides Against Breast Cancer. And this year, we were able to raise over $6,700 to date. In addition to that, this year, something else we're truly amazing happy with is that a group of students, seeing this, came to the Stretch students and the teachers at the high school and wanted to know how they could get involved with it as well. These students put together an amazing event that's happening this Saturday at the high school football game. They're having a high school football pink out where the high school football players and cheerleaders will be wearing pink in honor of making awareness and raising funds for Making Strides Against Breast Cancer. That's a 2:00 game. They created t-shirts. They're raising a lot of awareness and funds, raffle baskets, fundraisers, and it's a really amazing experience to see. And it's just the one small thing that so many of our children are involved with. And I apologize for not highlighting all of what the students do in advocating and raising awareness for many causes, but this one certainly is something that we're heavily involved with right now. It's amazing to see that, and I want to make sure everyone was aware of that pink cap at 2:00, the 2:00 home game here at Long-Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Nurse Supervisor, PBS Group. LBSEA. Parent Teacher Association.
Group B wants to congratulate the high school student government on a wonderful homecoming, and congratulations to Dr. Newman and Dr. Moran on their efforts, and to thank them for their work on homecoming, and also just to thank the Board of Education for all you do for our students and our community in recognition of celebrating last week. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dees. Parent teachers. So, motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to go into executive.
Motion to go to executive. Any discussion? Discussion. Space.
Yes.
Yes.
Rona?
Yes.
Conway?
Yes.
And I vote yes. What this means is that we had some business to talk about, probably concerning personnel. So we're going to convene and come out subsequent to that meeting and adjourn the meeting officially. You can wait indefinitely in terms of the adjournment of the meeting, but for all intents and purposes, the practical meeting is over. So we're going to go into executive session for I don't know how long, and then come back out and adjourn the meeting. So thank you for coming and for choosing to leave. Thank you.
I don't know if you guys read it. Yeah, no, so it's definitely, she has to.